avenue that kids have. And so I think in order to do that at some point, I think you have to double up. And I think the problem is that DODEA dictates as part of the CCRS, you have to make all of those gates, if I understood correctly. I know we had an expert come down from Fort Campbell and explain how all of the CCRS aligned and how that changed. So many of the things that were taught in Algebra 1 are now being taught in Math 8, for instance, is what I understood correctly, if I understood correctly.
I'm not sure that was the explanation that should have been given, but that's not necessarily true. There are algebra things that take place in Math 8.
Yes.
But it's not Algebra 1.
Right.
Algebra 1 is far more rigorous than Math 8.
Right. And I think that came out, but I think what they were trying to say is we've changed, as part of CCRS, we changed the progression, what's taught at each grade level, if I understood correctly.
I don't know that that's necessarily so, but
Okay.
the bigger point here is I can't tell you how many sixth graders we have that are ready for Math 7 or Math 8. I can't tell you. If this is a one-off person who moves into the community, I can't tell you. And
If there was an assessment, then you could tell us.
if there were an assessment, of which I don't have, it's, and then what do I do with that? I mean, I haven't had Sheldon Cooper move into any of the schools that I have here, so I don't know. If somebody comes to me and says my child has unique ability in mathematics, and we say, okay, what does that mean? I don't know of this person who's come in with.
Student says my child took Math 6 in 5th grade. What can he take this year in 6th grade? And you're told Math 6.
I don't know that. I don't know that we said that.
That is occurring.
Yeah.
That is occurring. That's part of the discussion.
Okay,
Yeah.
but did that happen for one student or 20 students?
1 or 20 or any, it's too many.
Well, that's not necessarily so. I mean, everybody, and that's where you have the option. If we don't have the option for you here, I can't necessarily create a class for one student.
The class is Math 7.
So, and I'm not telling you I would be unwilling to put the child in there. I don't know what, I'd have to look into the criteria. Somebody telling me their child took Math 6 in grade 5 means nothing to me unless I know what the rigor was, what they actually took.
You have kids in DODEA. We came from DODEA school in Korea, and it was a K through 8 school. And it was very common for 5th graders to be in Math 6 as a 5th grader in a DODEA school. So I mean, is there something in the DODEA that rules that prohibits that?
There isn't anything that prohibits again, I'm saying, I don't know what they took. So to determine that they're ready for that, we'd have to figure that out. I'm not saying I'm prohibiting it, I'm saying we have to know. You coming in and telling me your child's already taken Math 6 and when they were in the 5th grade, I want to know what they did in Math 6.
Well, the other thing is at a certain point, I think we need to give the parent the benefit of the doubt. And so let's suppose worst case scenario. Parent says, look, he's got a strong academic record. Look at his standardized test scores in the school he came from. Here's a letter from the prior school. Worst case scenario, you put the kid in Math 7. They're not doing so well. They're struggling. You have a conversation with the parent. You put them back in Math 6.
It sounds easy to say. Sounds easy to say. But in reality, maybe not. Once you have given somebody something, to take it back away from them is something else. And then it becomes, so I'm cautious. You bring up something here today that really isn't for this forum whatsoever. I'm not going to debate this. And I'm also going to say that, so the child, we put him in Math 7 as a 6th grader, then in Math 8 in Algebra 1 as a 7th grader.
Right.
Then what do I do in 8th grade?
They take geometry.
Where?
Well, first of all, a kid that's that far ahead relative to his peers is going to be able to do an online course. You have a DODEA virtual school. Or the high school's right there. They walk over to the high school. We already have 8th graders walking over to the high school for classes.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is other schools do it.
I'm not saying that I'm not willing to look at it. What you're not saying is I don't know, first of all, that we have any children that are ready for this. And secondly, it takes organization to be able to do that. So you have, until it's presented to me, I can't make a decision. and it's not been presented to me yet.
So I guess my only point is there is a 7th and 8th grade math assessment at the beginning of the year. Because when I heard about it, I called to ask when is the 6th grade assessment, and I told there was not one. Therein lies the issue. There needs to be a 6th grade math assessment so these children are not stuck in a classroom and bored for a year. And there are 6th grade assessments out there, there just has to be.
And I think one of the structural factors here is that parents are looking at what math their student needs to take as a senior, and they're doing the math themselves and saying, okay, if they don't start this process by the time they're in grade 7, they're not going to meet this requirement to go to a top-level school. So inherently, there's friction in the system, and parents are naturally pushing to ensure their children are on the right track.
Well, let's do the math, shall we? Okay, if you take Algebra 1 in 8th grade, Geometry in 9th grade, Algebra 2 in 10th grade, Calculus AB in 11th, Calculus BC in 12th. The math works for me the way we have it right now.
Without the trigonometry pre-calculus bridge from Algebra 2 to calculus.
It's not necessary, is it a necessary bridge? I don't know that that's a necessary bridge.
Well, you're skipping over Algebra 2.
No, I didn't skip over Algebra 2.
So-
Algebra 2 was in 10th grade.
But he didn't take pre-calculus as a discrete
Oh, that-
class.
yeah.
So in other words, you're
Pre-calculus is not required in this progression. I just got you to Calculus BC as a senior.
Right.
By starting with Algebra 1 in 8th grade.
and in somewhere you have to double up. And so the best
No, there was no double up.
Well, so you either skip out 8th grade math,
No,
or you
well, you
double
skip-
up
you-
8th grade. Right.
But you were skipping 6th grade math too.
Right.
So, I mean, you have to, one of those, but I got you to BC is what I thought the original question was.
Right.
My son took, go ahead, tell him about your math situation. He's in AP Calculus AB as a junior, and he took pre-calculus as a sophomore. He ended up having to take Algebra 2 online because he wasn't progressed fast enough in middle school and we weren't on top of it. But do you think you could take out AP Calculus AB without taking a pre-calculus course?
I do not think so.
Why not?
Because you need to learn, it's because you're like skipping a class. That'd be like trying to go from math 6 to math 8 without taking math 7. Right.
Well, and if you listen to what we're saying, you're saying the same thing. We should build the progression with 6, 7, and 8.
Right, that's exactly right.
So, but you just wanted to skip math 6 because somebody's already had math 6.
What I'm talking about is assessing.
But you had to skip something somewhere.
No, you're not skipping it if you've already taken it.
True, yes.
Yeah, no, wait, you had to skip something somewhere.
Yes, he was
Yeah.
given an assessment at the beginning of 5th grade, and he tested a high enough percentage, they did, so yes, he did skip 5th grade addition, or whatever.
Right, so you skip something somewhere. So something has to give. Right?
Right, but if you really look at the 6th and 7th grade math curriculum, it's a lot of overlap. And if you look at 5th and 6th grade math curriculum, it's a lot of overlap. And if someone is that good, that strong in math, it's not going to be an issue. But comparing skipping 5th grade math or 6th grade math to skipping pre-calculus, that's not a fair comparison. My only goal is, look, the goal should be in middle school to advance these kids as fast as they're capable of being advanced. That's all. That should be the goal. The goal should not be, let's have everybody in math 6 if we can.
Why not set them in semester classes instead of full year classes?
Why not what? I'm sorry?
Set them up as semester classes instead of full year classes
Well,
for some of these.
because there's a full year, there's 36 weeks worth of study in these classes. There's 0.5s down there, those are the semester classes.
Perhaps we ought to look at how other high schools and other middle schools handle this, because there are kids all over this country taking a second year of AP Calculus BC, and they got it somehow.
Right, and I just gave you the progression to get there, and what you said to me was, my son can't do that because he didn't take pre-calculus.
I think anybody would tell you.
So I can tell you, you take pre-calculus then in the summertime. I don't know what, I gave you a progression to get the BC, of which when I was a high school principal, we had plenty of kids who did that.
And they just skipped the whole the pre-calculus year?
They didn't take pre-calculus.
All right, so I think now would probably be the time to pause here. So in the April meeting, we can come back around to math. We have lots of points to dig into and try to frame this a little better. So we can pause, do some thinking, and readdress it at the next meeting. And to the board, are there any other comments, concerns on this right now? Okay.
Nope.
So moving forward, the next item are the principal reports.
Only
Do you
have
any?
a couple principals. Do you have anything today? Okay, nothing. Okay, good. So.
Okay. Are there any items that are not on the agenda from the members of the board? No. All right, hearing none. All right. So, Mr. Gerstner, the next series of items we have, the personnel actions, no report this month because of the hiring freeze.
Right?
The extended school year program.
Yes, it's primarily for identified students who would regress in special education if they didn't have a continued school year. So we do offer extended school year, and our special education department is looking at students who would qualify for that, and it lasts for about 4 weeks after the school year ends.
And those notices would go directly to the teachers?
Yes, they would have
I'm
an
sorry, the parents?
IEP meeting with the parents, and they would determine whether or not they need that or not.
And do you know when that would take place?
Those are taking place soon, I assume, right, Ms. Romans? Yes.
Any questions, comments from the board on that? No? All right, next item, the accelerated withdrawal date.
The accelerated withdrawal date is there for your knowledge, and if anyone asks, it's PCSing. If you are PCSing, you may receive grades no earlier than that date. So if you're a high school student and you're PCSing, you have to make sure you get all of your exams and things taken credit before that date, so that you could be accelerated. But you must be PCS, you have to have PCS orders to do that.
And students must take the end of semester exams.
Yep, they'll take exams, projects, anything that has to have them complete that particular grade or class.
Okay. Any questions or comments? No? All right, next we have comments from the floor, and I know I stopped the conversation a little prematurely. It may have frustrated some people, but the intent was to move forward. The floor is now open. I just ask that if you have concerns or any negative comments about an individual teacher or administrator, that you just let us know. We can go into an executive session at that point. Otherwise, the floor is open.
I have a question. I have a child who's currently at Van Forest and will be attending Kingsolver in the fall unless something changes because we're in the Clark neighborhood. How do I get involved with PTO at McDonald? Because those are that's the new student population, correct? And those parents. So what is being done to get the Van Forest parents who are going to Kingsolver involved prior to the new school year? Because we talk about hitting the ground running. And the PTO is something that needs to.
Understood. So I'm going to defer to the principals.
Usually when we have a little bit of experience because unfortunately we have closed schools and we have merged schools in recent years here. What we have done in the past is usually around mid-April to the end of April, beginning of May, depending on those PTOs, those boards will come together in some joint meetings and start pre-planning for that next year for that transition. So we aren't there yet.
Okay, so in April.
Usually that's when they decide to meet, but they start having those conversations and meeting together, plans are fixed.
Are you doing anything at registration? Yes.
Yes. You can come to the school also, if you can get in contact with our PTO person.
And it does affect funds and things like that, so the meeting together is
Thank you very much for your interest in participating in the PTO. Because we're a transient community, it's so important when people come in that they get involved right away. So thank you. Yes.
I have an issue. I was told, my son went to Van Voorhis for about a month, and one of the first things I picked up on over there is that the building that's the gymnasium doesn't have air conditioning. And I don't know if it's the same building where they ate lunch. Is that the same building where they ate lunch?
It is not.
Okay, so the other issue is the building where they ate lunch is very, very loud. And when I raised the issue to Dr. Calvano and then Dr. Middlemas, the answer I got was, oh, we're going to close Van Voorhis, so it's too expensive to put air conditioning in that building. Well, if Van Voorhis is going to be enduring, I think Dodea needs to come up with the money to make that building air conditioned, because it's pretty hot in August and in September and in April and in May. So you got 4 months where it's very, very hot.
Okay, the sound, hold on a second. I'll just answer. The sound aspect, we are putting baffles in this summer. So that's recognized. And I can't tell you exactly what we're going to do with, we're not putting air conditioning in the gymnasium. But we did have an alternate plan for physical education on the hottest of the days, and all the days are not hot. But we will, because we'll have less students there this year, we'll have about 40% less students. So that what is currently used as a cafeteria will likely be used somewhat for PE, so where it is air conditioned. So that's some short-term solution things that we're going to work with. But to put the air conditioning into that building when I can't explain why they didn't think this whole thing through before. Perhaps they would have put air conditioning into it had they thought through the building. They also didn't know, those of you who weren't here, we lost a brigade here. Brigade's a lot of soldiers and a lot of kids. So we had more than twice as many schools just 4 years ago as we have now. So there was an idea we were going to be closing, and Van Voorhis was going to close because we didn't have to have Van Voorhis anymore. So to put an air conditioning unit on the books now when I'm trying to get a new school built is probably not going to happen. So we're going to look at alternatives so the kids don't have to go to a hot room to have PE. Right, Angelique? Thank you.
Sir?
Sir, Sergeant Major, board members, I'm Sergeant First Class Curry, just PCS here, been here maybe 4 or 5 days. I've talked to Ms. Weatherington and Mr. Gershner about my daughter's situation here. We're coming from California, and my daughter's in the 11th grade. Her term in high school, she was taking a healthcare academy class. We found out with PCS in here, we get to schools, find out by Ms. Worthington that if you live on post, your child has to attend Fort Knox High Schools. Well, Fort Knox High Schools does not offer those healthcare classes, but there's a class, or the EC3, that does. I tried to get a release. The release got disapproved. I know this is probably not going to help my daughter out, but maybe this will help some soldier that's going to come up behind me. Is there anything in place? I understand the school here doesn't have enough students to offer all of these different programs, but is there anything else in place where maybe they can give slots to students to go and attend the EC3 program that the Hardin County schools have to offer? That played a big part in our move here, because we were planning on moving on post March 3rd, and now we're stuck in a hotel for 30 days waiting on a house to close, all because our release got, or the thing got disapproved. So I'm asking, is there anything in place in the future to where parents that are coming in and has this type of issue, their kids may be welding or something at another school in another state, and they get here and find out Fort Knox does not offer that? Is there anything in place that maybe in the future we can offer a few kids to leave from Fort Knox to go and attend that program?
Thank you, Mr. Curry. And we did speak, and I met with Hardin County Superintendent and Assistant Superintendent, and I met with folks on post here. We have a small high school, 400 kids, and we cannot offer programs that they offer in school systems that have 1,200, 1,500, 2,000 students in their school system. I really wish we could, but we can't because we don't have the numbers to do that. So it was decided years ago that if you lived on post and you were active duty, that your school option was the Dodia School on post. That's where you.
Regulation. It's in the regulation, the DOD 1346-.26 and .12, it's highly encouraged that your students go to school on post because the DOD has established a school system there for your students to attend.
Right.
So it's not mandatory, it's just encouraged that they attend.
And it's not mandatory if you live on post for your daughter. That's exactly correct. The issue isn't really, the issue is really, if you live on post, you don't pay taxes to Hardin County. To where that's why they have EC3 programs, is because people pay taxes and they have those programs. So I think I told you this on the phone. If you lived at Fort Campbell and you went to Clarksville, Montgomery County schools, you'd pay taxes. You'd pay tuition to them, which is, I don't know what it is, $5,000 a year or something like that. I can't prohibit you for enrolling there, but their restrictions on that would be different than, I can't restrict anybody from pursuing that. I can't restrict you from homeschooling.
But you can't give me a letter approving me to go off post.
It's not my approval to give. I don't.
So I think what you do is we have certain students who live on post who are ineligible to attend the schools on post. Am I correct? And that's what the letter is for.